Welcome folks, and thanks for stopping by to visit today. My name is Homer Wing, and I'm happy to share a bit of my story with all of you. Now, I suppose you could say I led a fairly ordinary life. I was born right here in Rochester, just after Christmas in 1893. Now, my family wasn't what you'd call well-to-do. My father was a farm laborer, and he worked for a daily wage. When I was old enough, I did the same. I got myself what I thought to be a pretty good job. Well, it was steady work anyway. I was a farmhand over on the Marston Birch Farm and over on Rochester Road, just a few miles south of town. Now, you folks might not recognize the name, but Judge Birch was a really important man in my day. See, he was a federal judge and he lived most of his time in Washington, D.C., but he was married to one of the Hamlin daughters, and they inherited the big Hamlin place. They only stayed there in the summertime, though, so they had a superintendent to run the farm, and I was one of the farmhands who worked for him. Yeah, the Hamlin place is still out there on the corner of Rochester and Hamlin Road, as far as I know. And all that property out there with the houses and the shopping centers on it, it's land I used to work on. Times have changed a lot, I guess. Now, I suppose I would have spent the rest of my life out there if it hadn't been for the war that broke out in Europe in 1914. I guess that's 100 years ago now, isn't it? Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know much about what the rhubarb was all about in the first place, but I registered for the draft just like every other man my age was ordered to do, and when I was 24, I joined the Army. But before I left, I married a young lady named Lucille Whipple. Lucille and I didn't have much time together before my unit was shipped overseas in 1918. Yeah, I was a part of the 310th Engineers. We were an infantry regiment that was ordered to go to Archangel, Russia, and we were sent over there to help out the forces loyal to the Tsar fight against the Bolsheviks who had just taken power there in Russia. But what we were really up against there in Russia were the conditions in Archangel. Now, I hear you folks had a pretty rough winter around here last year. Well, let me tell you something. It was nothing compared to what we had to face. The cold was harsh and bitter, nothing like today. Sometimes we found ourselves fighting in temperatures 60 degrees below zero. Yeah, you heard me. 60 degrees below. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we decided to call ourselves the Polar Bears, as I'm sure you can see why. It's hard to fight when you can't feel your fingers or your toes. We figured if the Bolsheviks didn't kill us, then the frostbite surely would. Now, besides being cold, we were also forgotten. You see, when the armistice ended the war in November of 1918, our American troops started getting orders to sail home. But not my unit. My unit was left behind there in Archangel for months after the war ended. Well, folks back here in the States started getting pretty upset about that, and started writing to their congressmen. That finally got some action, and we received our orders to sail home in May of 1919. My unit was traveling along the Volga Railroad. We had a collision of two of the engines there, and unfortunately I was caught right in the middle of it. So I didn't make it home alive. I did make it home on the train though. My body was shipped home to Rochester, and it seemed as if the entire village came out to meet the train. They shut down all the local businesses on Main Street, they let all the children out of school, and had this big parade. I don't know, it just seemed like a lot of fuss for a lowly enlisted soldier who didn't even die in a fierce battle, but I guess my family's sacrifice meant a lot to the people around here. Heck, they even named the American Legion Post after me. And although I've been resting here at Mount Avon for almost a century, I'm sure a few of you still probably recognize my name. Well, I thank you very kindly for remembering me with a visit today, and I hope you come again. In the meantime, though, I believe my friend Mr. Baldwin over there has a few stories to tell you himself.
Hello everybody, and thank you for coming by to visit today. My name is Virginia McLeod, and my story, well, the part of the story that would interest all of you, started when I was in high school. My family lived here in Avon Township, and I attended Rochester High School. When I was a junior, my family planned to move north to Lapeer County to the village of Clifford. which made me very unhappy because I wanted to stay here and finish school with my class. Fortunately for me, our good neighbor Lucy Arnold agreed to allow me to board with her so that I could stay here and graduate as a member of the RHS class of 1938. I'm proud to say I was a member of the National Honor Society as well, and happily, my parents didn't stay too long in Clifford and moved right back here to Rochester. As you may have guessed, now that you know the year of my graduation, the world was very unsettled when I finished school and set out on my own. War broke out in Europe, and before we knew it, Pearl Harbor was attacked, and we were in the thick of the fighting. My older brother Kenneth went off to serve in the Army. Right here in Rochester, Twist Drill up on Tinkin Road and McAleer Manufacturing downtown on Water Street both won big defense contracts and were needed workers as they added shifts round the clock. I wanted to do my part to help my older brother, so I applied for a job at McAleer. McAleer did very important work. They made photo flash bombs and flares and had a second production plant down on South Street near the Clinton River, where they mixed explosive powder for ordnance. That's where I worked. It was very dangerous work, and we worked in bunkers that were located some distance away from the main powder plant. I knew it was dangerous, but I also knew it was very important work and was in support of our boys in uniform. That's who I wanted to be. One of those in uniform. So after thinking about it for a while, I decided to enlist in the Navy in December 1942. After I signed the papers, I went to my friend Lucy and told her all about my decision. She asked if I had told my parents. Well, I hadn't, not yet. Lucy doubted that my family would be very happy to find out that their oldest daughter was going off into military service when their son was already in uniform. While I didn't doubt that was true, as it happened, that conversation turned out to be unimportant. You see, a few days after I made the decision to enlist, a horrible accident happened in the bunkers where I worked. 2 other women and I were mixing powder when something ignited the powder. There was a big explosion. The 3 of us were taken to the hospital in Pontiac with critical burns and severe injuries, but only one of the 3 of us would survive. My friend Ella and I were injured beyond recovery. My family said goodbye to me Christmas Eve, 1942. It is a sad story, but you may be surprised to find that my tragic experience was not uncommon during the war. You see, there were many, many women who, like me, wanted to do their part to help support the boys in uniform by joining the critical defense industries. We worked in many factories and built various things in support of the war effort. The defense plants were working round the clock to build weapons and parts that were in short supply and desperately needed. And some of it was dangerous work, like what we did at McAleer. But it had to be done. The boys in uniform were in far more danger, so we took the risk for their sake. And some of us died in the effort. They say in the 4 years of the war that nearly 407,000 American soldiers were killed and 671,000 were wounded. But here on the home front, nearly 300,000 defense workers were killed in industrial accidents, and nearly 3 million were injured. It may seem odd of me to say so, but I am proud to have been one of them and to have given my life for my country. That's what the War Department said in the letter that they sent to my family. You can read it here if you like. There was also a plaque made by one of my co-workers at McAleer with a poem on it about my contribution to the war effort. I think it was a comfort to my family. And as you may have noticed, my grave marker here looks brand new, and that's because it is. You see, my family didn't have much extra money to do for such things. So for 72 years, my final resting place here at Mount Avon has gone unmarked. But as of last week, that changed, thanks to the members of the Rochester Avon Historical Society, who kindly placed this new marker here in my memory. I am very grateful to them for the tribute, as I am grateful to all of you for stopping by to visit today. Thank you.